All right, the Red Sox and Cardinals. Man, they had some fun yesterday on Tuesday. I think we'll get into the Sonny Gray trade involving Craig Breslow, former big league pitcher, and former Red Sox executive Chaim Bloom on another episode as we're soaring towards close to 200 episodes of Red Sox Now, which we began last March, thanks to the gang at FanArch. I'm Mike Antonellis, one of the radio and TV broadcasters for the Worcester Red Sox, who are doing a bunch of holiday giveaways. If you follow them on social media, they were giving away some unbelievable things. Bobbleheads, autographs. They were doing that all day yesterday. And, of course, as we come up on Thanksgiving and Black Friday, you're going to, right, all over Black Friday deals everywhere. The trade with Sonny Gray happened, of course, I think, was it a few minutes? I think it was right around 11-ish. We released the episode at 11. I had some thoughts. If you follow me on X, at the Radio Mike, on Instagram and TikTok, I had thoughts on that. We'll get to your comments. We have a good full show, and we'll talk about the trade. We'll do that. Sunny days. We'll do that first. All right. I get it. I know the reaction from some. There was overreaction right away. We're assuming too much. Okay. It's November 26th. There's so much more time. We haven't even had the Rule 5 draft. And many commented on the shows that we weren't going to have any trades at all until the winter meetings. This is the biggest trade, I think, thus far in the offseason, unless you want to count the Grayson Rodriguez deal. Last year, the Red Sox went into the season with Crochet, Houck, Buehler, Fitz, and Newcomb. And I'm not saying this to be contrarian. I actually looked back a little bit on the... You had Bayo and Giolito hurt. I don't think I got one comment about the rotation. None. Now there's this overwhelmingly obsession with everyone calling Gray's not a number two. He's not a number two. Okay. And I don't fully know that. And a lot of you don't fully know that. And Googling his baseball savant page and just throwing numbers at me, we all could do that. But when people tell me that he's not a number two, what are you basing that on? And I agree with he's more than likely a 3 because he's not, a number 2 is really close to a Crochet type of guy. Now, the national view of this is completely different. Gray is a top 7 in Cy Young 3 times. He definitely had an off year. Number 7 in Major League Baseball last year in walks to strikeouts. He throws strikes. We want that, right? Gives you a lot of innings. I know he's older. I understand that. We're not playing for the future here. They're trying to win next year. It's all that matters. They gave you $20 million back. You spent a crap load of money for Buehler last year, who... His previous, I think I did a show, at one point, his last 65, 70 starts were horrible. Or he had an ERA of he had not come here with a good track record. And you almost gave him 3 years. He said no to that. And you spent a lot on him. Giolito cost you a lot of money. Gray is better than those two, head and shoulders. So maybe he's not a 2, maybe he's not a 3, maybe he's in between. But let's not be so obsessed with that. You made your team better. I don't think Crochet, Houck, Buehler, Fitz, and Sean Newcomb was a great start to 25 with your rotation. I know Bayo and Giolito were hurt, but we didn't know what Giolito was going to give us. I think we knew what Bayo was going to give us. So let's just put Bayo in there. And I think that's what we were talking about. A Crochet, Houck, Bayo, Buehler, and Fitz. We thought that was going to be fantastic. I don't think Tanner Houck's a number 2. Yeah, sure he was. He was an all-star. So, number 2 number one guys have to have repertoires that are 4 to 5 different pitches, which Sonny Gray has, by the way. And how did it work out for Houck? He was hurt. He was hurt after he struggled. He wasn't hurt during the struggles. He was a disaster. Buehler was a disaster. You traded Newcomb. Fitz barely got through the year. Giolito was good. Bayo was good. So look at what they were going into last year. They improved that. And we were fine with the rotation last year. And again, still could have moves to go. And early Dobbins and others weren't even in the mix. Last year when we were talking about other options, we didn't really have other options because we didn't know yet the other options. So I like this move because it is basically replacing Giolito. And this is a better option. Sinker baller, he throws more strikes, he's more durable, he gets more swing and miss. I don't care how old he is. I don't know why anybody is obsessing about this. This is for this year. I really don't understand the obsession with talking about his age. He's been more durable than Fitz, Houck, they're young. They got hurt. Bayo got hurt. Right? I mean, I have the list. Dobbins got hurt. Right? I mean, Meyer's been hurt. What does it matter how old he is? Maybe older is better. To me, it is. In terms of how they go about their business, how they know how to take care of themselves. But you can't just blanket, he's 36. So what? As a solid rotation piece, and I know a lot of you are not up to hear about Early and Dobbins in the rotation if they don't do anything else. Why not? Because they're unknown, and I get that. I get that. Connolly Early's not unknown to me. He's not. And I like having an older presence as well. Because Sonny Gray is a fantastic, and I checked up on this, he's like Bregman. So now you got another pitching coach. This is, and I know in this day and age people don't value that because you can't Google it. It's not on the Baseball Savant page. And if you don't think that matters, it does. It matters a ton. And you have a young rotation. And now you're going to see, I've seen this in the minor leagues when we brought in an older guy. Trace Thompson was someone all the players in Worcester looked up to because the way he went about his business. He came in with a bad back every day. Every single day he was in that training room getting treatment, and he would play that night. Sometimes he'd have to say no at the last minute. The guys loved him. They looked up to him. He's Klay Thompson's brother, but Trace Thompson, a lot of big league time. He's grinding it out in Worcester every day, and the mentorship he was, a lot of players told me that they learned a lot. And this is, you have a young pitching staff, and this is, bringing in a good arm that is also good in relaying the message. I thought, same with the Patriots. Diggs has been a huge mentor with the Patriots, and they're young. So the national view is the Red Sox are simply better and deeper because of it. They have no agenda. Will Letch of MLB.com. And yeah, and I know, but let's get into the exchange. To say that Heim fleeced the Red Sox is absolutely foolish. He could, but so what? And to make that assumption right off the bat makes no sense. Richard Fitz, to me, and I said this on the show, this is not he's gone. He basically threw 2 pitches last year. I didn't think, and I said this, I see him as a 5th starter, maybe, but more of a reliever. But he added pitches last year. So the Cardinals will do that. They'll work with him. If they can get him another pitch, he could easily be a solid rotation piece for them. Brandon Clark is a couple years away. I don't know if he's going to be good. I don't know. And of course, you're going to have to give something up. But to say that Heim won the deal, and first of all, who cares? I don't even know. Like, what is he? I mean, he won the deal. He had to give you $20 million basically for Fitz and Clark. So, and to get, I mean, they were so desperate to get guys off their team, they gave you money. So in the end, it's a solid, and I think people are underselling. You're getting a really good arm here. It's a much better track record. And yeah, of course things can go sideways. We know that. But Buehler, Giolito, May, those guys were not, Giolito a little more established, but hurt a lot. This is a much better pitcher in so many facets. And again, there's a lot of time. And I'll tell you another thing that I know happens. Craig Breslow cannot come out and tell people what they're going to do. I know there's reports that they're going to be cooled off from the pitching market now. He probably wants teams to think that. There's no way an ex-big league pitcher who you've seen has brought in a lot of arms is going to turn the page on making more moves. I think he's very strategic. All general managers, I've talked to JP Ricciardi about this. It's a game of poker. Him throwing out the 3 through 10 thing. They want to see, because they want teams to call and be intrigued. But don't think that what you see from some of the beat writers, and I know Alex Spear put something out yesterday that's made everyone say, oh, they've moved on. I don't believe that stuff. They can't tell all of you, nor should they. They can't tell you guys and gals what they're doing. Do NFL coaches tell their game plan? Oh, we're going to run the ball this week? No. Nobody had a clue about the Sonny Gray deal. That tells you how tight-lipped Heim and Breslow are, and how there's not as many leaks that nobody sniffed at. That's impressive. I was impressed by that. I will tell you this. I guarantee you that was a deadline deal that they couldn't make. Guarantee you. There's no way that just happened. That's could have been going back last offseason. The Chris Sale deal was almost pulled off at the All-Star break. And I've told this story before. I have a good friend who is actually related to Ben Cherington, who was one of the head scouts on looking at the talent that the White Sox wanted. He was following us in Portland, and he basically told me one day, we're in Binghamton, New York, and he said, oh yeah, the deal will happen at the end of this in the offseason. I go, why wouldn't it happen now? He's like, the negotiations. What we wanted, what you guys were willing to give up was far apart, but that's what happens in season. And I think the markets for ML players should tell you what? The value, what it costs. And I guarantee you at the deadline, it was Tolley, it was early, it was more. That's why you don't do irrational deadline deals. And I talked about this on social media with a few people yesterday. That's why you do these deals in the offseason. Right? I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. I know a lot of you won't agree with me with the Crochet deal. I still don't think the Red Sox gave up a lot to get a number one pitcher. Well, he wasn't a number. Yes, he was. That was the White Sox stupid evaluation of him. There were a ton of teams that were in on the Crochet that were willing to give up more. But to me, you did not. I don't care where they rank in the. I don't care. You can throw all the Baseball America prospect and all their Baseball Savant pages Kyle Teal is a future first baseman. He can't catch. That's why they traded him. He is a horrible defensive catcher. Chase Mydrop, nice player. Hall of Famer? No. And yes, I hope all four play in the big leagues for 10 to 15 years. You got an ace. You did that in the offseason. What would have Crochet cost you during the deadline? Which Rob Bradford had said they had talked about that the year before. Roman Anthony, Marcelo Meyer, and more. So this deal, last trade deadline, would have cost you a lot. And I don't think giving up the two that they gave up was a lot. I don't. You gave up two players. You got a big league pitcher who's been at it a long time. Look at what the Padres gave up to get Mason Miller. Elite closer, maybe the best stuff of any reliever in baseball. He's right up there with Crochet. I would even say he's maybe better stuff-wise. And they gave up, at the deadline, the top prospect in the game, a position player, for a reliever who was a setup guy. They gave up four prospects for a setup guy. He's not a setup guy, but that's the role that the Padres used him in. They could have just signed Chapman in the offseason, right? Make these moves in the offseason because the markets during the season are insane. I don't want the Red Sox to get to the deadline and having to be so desperate that they have to give up solid big league players because they have a hole. I'd rather this. And that's what they did last year. We're getting our pitcher in the offseason, Crochet. We're signing Bregman. We're signing Chapman. We're trading for Narvaez. And they've already started it now. Because Sonny Gray, believe it or not, he won 14 games last year. If he started the season with, or go back to last year or this year, he cost you 4 times the amount at the deadline. Because at the deadline, teams know what you need. So I think if you just look at around the markets and what teams have had to give up for players, it should teach you all you need to know. And you can't, you're going to have to give up. And I've told all of you this. And I also said, last week I talked about expectations. Skubal, Peralta, Green, a lot of you shooting for the moon on that. But, the realistic view of this is that to get some of those guys, you're going to have to pay a stiff penalty. And I'm not opposed to it. And they're trying. They are. Well, Mike, you're contradicting what you said about Skubal. The Tigers have no leverage. They don't. To me, they don't. They're going to lose leverage. But I will tell you this. If Mookie Betts had just walked away, if you kept Mookie Betts that year, and it was a negotiation all offseason, he took $370, you offered him $320. That would have been a softer blow than the guys you traded for. People still talk about it. The Tigers management would rather a guy walk than to make a trade that they are going to lose because they see what other GMs go through. Those get you fired. So I really do. I think if the Tigers don't really get what they want, they'll just you cannot, the ownership's not going to let them do everything either. There's another caveat to that. All these teams with these studs, if you get rid of them, that can seal your fate with your fan base. Well, isn't getting more is, yes, it's better. It is better, but you still get a draft pick, and if you think about it, trading Skubal or any of those guys right now makes zero sense for those organizations. You get a lot more at the deadline, or who knows? Who knows? But we have so much time to go. The team is not done. Let's wait to see the other domino. And also, it's interesting that no other AL East team was in on Sonny Gray. Baltimore certainly has pieces they could have given up. Where is Baltimore these days? You built that young core. You sold your team to an owner who said, I'm spending money. He's done nothing for that club. You traded Grayson Rodriguez away. I like that my general manager's making moves and he's bold. But boy, Toronto could have been in on that. Why not? Just because they went to the World Series. But it's and a lot of national writers were surprised, and maybe they were. Maybe other teams were. Again, it's like I've said, fit. It's you got to like their players. They might like Fitz could probably be in their rotation to start the year. That's the other thing. But also, it's the Cardinals are definitely in a transition where that's just the first domino to fall. They are completely retooling, and it's going to be cool to see. I want Heim to succeed because I think he's very smart and he's really good and talented at what he does. All right, let's get to the comments. RNO Breaks 4579. I understand Imai is a Scott Boras client, means he is saying what he's told to say, and his concern is money above all else. It's who Boras is. Remember, he's the agent who strong-armed the owners by controlling player reps prior to the restructuring. Yeah, that's what all agents do. I do not believe that Scott Boras told Imai to say that. Just think about this with some common sense. Do you think that Boras was happy that he said he didn't want to pitch for the Dodgers? That's the last thing. Boras tells his clients to say nothing. That's not an opinion. I've been told that by many of his clients. He does not want them to speak at all because that hurts negotiations. So Imai, you can say, well, that makes the Dodgers want him more. No. That's not what he wants. He wants nothing. Have you heard a peep out of Skubal in Bregman? Zero. His clients don't say anything. So Imai saying that, he did that on a Japanese TV show. I'm sure Boras is not happy. At David Tui, -M808U, do you think the Red Sox should trade left and right fielders? No, I wouldn't trade both of them. That would not be a good move unless, you're signing Kyle Tucker or getting something back. But no, I would not trade Duran and Abreu. I'd trade one of them depending on what you get. Tenacis, right? I think I translated your name. No comparison to the 80s. Clemens and Hurst was about it. I know some people threw oil can. I guess we're talking about the amount of pitchers that are yours. And look at your development of pitchers landed you a big league pitcher. Fitz was a trade. I get it. And Clark was a draft pick, but that netted you a big league starter. Now you have at least 10 pitchers in the pipeline. Screw Diaz. Don't need him. Remember Reardon and Smith. It only lasted 1 month. John Heyman brought up the idea of Edwin Diaz going to Boston, and he thinks that could happen. I don't, because there's no way that you're going to have, two horses in the barn, Diaz and Chapman, two closers. It's not what teams do. Unless Diaz was like, listen, I'm fine with it, or he took a 1-year deal. But if he took a show-me deal as a setup guy, I don't think he would do that. But again, listen, I don't know him personally. Maybe he and Chapman are extremely close, and that's his mentor, and he wants to do that. It's just been, from my opinion on that, those guys have not liked it. If he is all in, and Mason Miller was okay doing that, we'll see if that continues next year. But if Diaz is like, listen, I look up to Chapman, I want to win, I don't care, then it's worth exploring, because that's a very good arm. And he would immediately be a better setup guy than Whitlock. You'd be Chapman, Diaz, Whitlock, and Slayton. So yes, as we turn our nose to that would be the 4 best relievers in baseball. Maybe not with the Padres, but that would be pretty damn good. So, like I've mentioned before, there can be some gray. It's not always black and white. But I don't think Diaz is. I don't know if that's, he wants the share, nor should he. All right, we'll get your comments today from Sonny Gray, and maybe we'll do even more. We could do more Thursday on Red Sox Now, presented by FanArch. I'm Mike. Subscribe on the way out. Follow the show. Follow me on socials. And as always, go Sox.